Hello, Mr. Agina.
Hey,
welcome.
How are you?
I'm fine. Welcome to Sarova. My name is Jesse. Kindly sanitize.
All right, thank you, Jesse.
Karibu.
Wow, the place is so empty. Well, this is what the coronavirus pandemic has literally done to the hospitality sector. On a normal day, this restaurant will be bustling with life, but this is not the case today. The coronavirus pandemic has hit the sector heavily. Hotels are struggling to stay afloat. We want to host the CEO of Sarova Hotels, Jimi Kariuki, who will be telling us how the hotels are coping with the virus and what way forward for the industry. But first, let's take a look at his profile.
Jimi Kariuki is currently the chairman of the Kenya Tourism Board. He was first appointed to this position in March 2016 for a 3-year period and was reappointed for an additional 3-year term in May 2019. He is the managing director, Sarova Hotels and Resorts, Kenya. Jimi joined Sarova in 1992 and held the position of Group Marketing and Sales Director up to 2017. In January 2018, the company's board of directors appointed him to the position of Managing Director for the group. He is also a member of the company's main board of directors appointed in 1996. Jimi has a Bachelor of Science Business Administration Marketing from Huron University, South Dakota, USA, and a Master of Business Administration from the Graduate School of Business, University of Cape Town, South Africa.
Thank you, Jimi. Such an honor to be here.
Thank you.
On a typical day, I'm sure we wouldn't get this space we are sitting on right now.
Yeah, well, first of all, Abby, thank you for this opportunity, being on your show. Yeah, we are definitely in extraordinary times. You know, who ever thought that, you know, would be in a situation where the whole world is on lockdown?
Sure.
But here we are, you know, and every sort of destination is in some form of lockdown or containment. But, you know, we will get over it. What we don't know is when. And yes, hopefully very soon we'll be, you know, sitting in a very different environment in a restaurant, you know. So yeah, these are very extraordinary, very different times that we've not faced, but we'll get over it.
Some have characterized coronavirus as a major economic fallout for many economies, not Kenya alone. It's a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Speaking for Kenya's tourism sector, in your assessment, how hard have we been hit?
You know, Abby, it's, you know, the whole world, as I said, is on lockdown. You know, the tourism industry is at a standstill, including here in Kenya. I think assessing the impact of the virus is actually very difficult. You know, it's very much a moving target. But without a shadow of doubt, the financial losses that have been experienced and will continue to be experienced by the industry will be very, very big. As much as we have gone into immediate mitigation, you know, many hotels have temporarily ceased operation. Number one, to protect their employees. That was the first and most important thing. But number two, because we're sitting at 0% occupancy because of the measures that the government has put in place, which we do support. So it's very difficult to put a number on the impact financially. But without a doubt, many jobs are at risk. You know, if we are not able to start to reopen the economy. Of course, the government has got to be very cautious because they don't want a spike. The whole point is to stay ahead of the curve and manage the curve, flatten the curve. And I think so far our government has done a great job. But you know, we need to prepare ourselves for when we need to restart the economy. And so far, the government has allowed restaurants to reopen. They've issued guidelines, strict guidelines that must be followed, Ministry of Health guidelines. We are in discussion on the preparedness for hotels to reopen. But you know, the government is being very cautious about it, and we support that caution because we also don't want the industry, the tourism industry, to be seen as the vehicle for further spreading of this virus.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's tough. But you know, we will hang in there. Yeah, as I said, we know this virus will come to an end. I think what we don't know is when.
All right. And Mr. Kariuki, paint for us a picture of how dire the situation is. You've talked about looming job losses. already we know that a number of sectors have asked their employees to take unpaid leave. And for the hospitality sector, how severe will this be when we look at the numbers down the road?
Well, you know, Abby, January and February were great months. I
Yeah.
think if we could look at some history. We had a very positive outlook for, you know, the next 6 months up until June from a business perspective. Many of us, in fact, I would say all of us, didn't see any signs of the impact of COVID-19. But very quickly, you know, after World Health Organization announced a pandemic in March, around the 11th of March, we started to see a serious reduction in bookings, you know, a major increase in cancellations. We have some bookings, you know, for the rest of the year, but you know what we don't know is how long these bookings will stick. So you know we have seen a great decline in the industry. But I'm happy to say that for us as an industry and many players in the industry, our priority has always been to protect jobs and to preserve wages and to preserve benefits of the 3.5 million Kenyans who are directly employed by the tourism sector. Staff have been home because we're a very labor-intensive sector, so you know people can't work from home. You know, a waiter can't work from home, a pool attendant can't work from home. But we've made sure that we've preserved wages, we've kept staff on the payroll, even though 90% of them have been at home. But moving forward, of course, you know, we are concerned that hotels or tourism industry players may need to take much tougher measures, because the reality is we have no cash inflows. We do have some savings, but as an industry we are continuously investing back in the business. So as much as we will continue to protect jobs, to preserve wages and benefits, the reality is that there will be casualties, and you know, we want to minimize those casualties. But as I said, you know, the government has indicated that they're keen to see the hotels reopen. If we can reopen by June, we could protect a lot more jobs. But also remember that the tourism value chain goes beyond just those 3.5 million who are directly involved in the industry. Tourism is a big partner to agriculture, to manufacturing, to transport. It supports a lot of vulnerable communities, women, youth, SMEs, self-employed. So it's very, very important that measures are put in place to protect the liquidity of businesses so that we can support and protect these vulnerable communities and the jobs. So as at now, no layoffs, but we don't know what's going to happen moving forward. We're playing everything month by month.
I like when you say it's more of a wait and see. And of course, the CS, Najib Balala, did mention that they've set aside close to 500 million shillings in terms of recovery. Perhaps, do you feel the government has set up sufficient initiatives that will help the industry bounce back?
You know, Abi, I think, you know, this situation, we're in a health crisis. And really the priority of government has to be to save lives. And that's the first and most important thing. And this is what the government is doing, which means that a lot of the funding, a lot of the priorities has to go into the health sector. So whatever measures the government has put in place will support the industry. Of course, we would like to see a more aggressive approach, especially around fiscal measures. But right now, fiscal measures really don't help. Reducing VAT is great for other sectors, but for the tourism sector, unfortunately, it doesn't help because when your billings are zero, there is no VAT to pay. And also, we just need to see a lot more fiscal monetary measures. You know, we've been in conversation with the Central Bank of Kenya. The banking sector has been very, very supportive. You know, they've supported when the liquidity that was released last month by the central bank to the bankers. They've been very supportive of the tourism industry. But we definitely need to see a more aggressive approach, especially around a stimulus package for the industry to support us to retain the jobs in the industry and also for the industry to stay alive. But the reality is, as I said, it's a healthcare crisis that we're in. The focus must be on saving lives. We support the measures that the government has put in place. And it's going to be a very, very slow and painful recovery for the whole world. So it's not unique to Kenya. It's going to be more of a marathon than a sprint. But we're confident that the government is keeping an eye on important sectors like tourism because of our value chain. But we continue to look forward to a lot more aggressive measures. But the amounts that have been put aside that the Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala mentioned is a starting point.
Let me shift gears a bit. With all this happening, hotels are still empty. What are some of the players in the industry doing right now that there's a sort of, should I say, a holiday for hoteliers?
Right. Well, I can assure you, for many of us, it isn't a holiday because we're ensuring that we prepare ourselves from whenever the restart comes. So, we are looking at ways that we reinvent our marketing. We are looking at ways of reinventing our operations. We're looking at innovative ways to start or to be engaging with our customers now, to ensure that we engage them in the booking process when that starts, to engage them when they're with us, and also to engage them after they've left. So a lot of work is going on for ourselves as Sarova, for example. We are meeting on a weekly basis with our top management team to share ideas on what we can do now, what we need to be prepared with for the reopening, and what we need to do after. Also, hotels are using this opportunity to renovate. We have a major renovation going on here at Sarova Pan-Afric, which started in 2018. We're investing over 1 billion shillings. Our board of directors and shareholders are committed to ensuring that that phase of the renovation finishes this year. We are also carrying out renovations at Sarova Mara, where this year we'll see 30 brand new tents that will be in place. We've recently finished our renovations at Sarova White Sands in Mombasa, and the product, which is 340 rooms, is completely renovated. So we are continuing to reinvest, and we're very committed to ensuring that the industry, when we reopen, offers a lot of value to clients. Furthermore, we also recognize ourselves as Sarova, as an indigenous Kenyan company, that we also have a role to play in supporting the government and the nation in driving through this crisis. So we have identified a group of Kenyans who we have said that we will support, and these are the healthcare workers at Kenyatta National Hospital and at Magathi Hospital. So we have volunteered, and we have been serving them with daily meals for the last 30 days. Just to say thank you. These are the people who are on the front line, sometimes the forgotten heroes and heroines. They're the ones carrying out the testing. They're the ones who are treating those who are infected. They're the ones who are saving lives. So for us as Sarova, we want to say thank you to them and appreciate them for their commitment, for their hard work, and for their dedication. From yesterday, we also started providing teas for 50 healthcare providers at the emergency unit at the two hospitals. So for us as a Kenyan company, there's still a lot to be done, and we are still working every day because there is work to be done to support the nation in driving through the crisis, and also to make sure that we're able to protect jobs in our industry.
Interesting. Mr. Kariuki, moving this narrative forward, over and above hotels being immersed right now in renovations, how are they also tapping into new markets? Because I'm sure you'd agree with me that there seems to be an urge amongst the general public that once this COVID-19 cloud passes, everyone can't wait for life to get back to normal. We are likely to see hotels being overwhelmed, perhaps. I don't know. What are your projections?
Definitely will not be business as usual. There are measures that will have to be in place and that will continue to be in place for a very long time. So, issues around social distancing, issues around wearing of masks, issues around, enhancing cleaning and sanitation. Those are things that will be with us, and those are things that we have embraced. In fact, in the protocols that we've developed and the standard operating procedures that we've developed, those are very, very much a part of it. But having said that, hotels generally have very high standards in health and sanitation. So a lot of these measures are just to enhance. But we definitely also need to look for new markets. I think the digital space is an area that we need to focus in on, given that during this lockdown period and containment period, many people have been conducting business and coming up with different products that are digital related. So for example, we have partnered with an organization called Kuza Biashara, and they have developed a rapid response tool called Corona Warriors. And this really is a tool that helps organizations keep in touch with each other, share experiences or share issues around COVID. So the digital space has become very, very important. We're also positioning ourselves to ensure that when business starts or business restarts, that we are able to allow our guests to experience the hotel virtually before they travel, so that it helps them take their decisions. So using things like augmented reality, that's going to be very, very important for us, so that guests are able to take a completely different and an immersed view into our product. So there's many things that we're doing, but as I said, it will not be business as usual.
Sure.
We need to reinvent our marketing activities. We need to reinvent operations to make sure that we are aligned to what is now being referred to as the new norm.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I'm keen to hear from you. When you look at the time with which it will take for us to bounce back, to recover and get back to normal, how long might this actually take, and will we ever recover? Because a number of economists have come out saying the tourism sector might take 3 to 4 years to get back to where it was. What are your thoughts on this?
You know, Abby, it's as I said, this is a moving target.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to assess the depth of the impact of this virus, because we don't know when the virus will come to an end.
Yeah.
We don't know what the impact will be and how long it will take any industry, including the tourism industry, to recover. But what we do know is that there will be major financial and job losses at some point. And you know, companies will go through a lot of pain, individuals will go through a lot of pain. But you know, we are confident that from history, the tourism sector has the ability to bounce back. It has the ability to regenerate and restart the economy. And it also has the ability to support other sectors to recover. So, you know, we are hoping sooner rather than later that the tourism sector can start doing business again. But absolutely, you know, there will be a recovery period. It could be a long recovery period. We don't know. It could be 12 months. It could be 14 months. It could be 18 months. We don't know. But we are hoping that history will repeat itself and show that tourism can bounce back and it can support other industries and the economy to recover.
All right. Speaking about resilience, we've seen a number of countries restarting back, life going back to normalcy. The likes of France, China, which was the epicenter.
Yes, yeah.
When you see such news coming in, what runs through your mind?
Well, you know, I think countries have begun to realize, and in fact, World Health Organization did point out that, you know, we could potentially be living with this virus forever.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, a lot of countries very cautiously are saying, look, we need to restart businesses very, very carefully. We need to keep a very close eye on those businesses. They need to introduce protocols that are very strict. They must adhere to those protocols. Governments are putting a lot of trust in businesses because they can't police you 24 hours. So they're putting trust that you will follow the procedures. So the Kenya government is also appearing to want to do the same. We don't know what the government is going to announce, you know, after the 6th of June. There's very many different views. You know, some people feel that there should be a complete review of the lockdown measures and open up completely. Others believe that the lockdown measures should still be in place, but maybe extended. So maybe the curfew, rather than starting at 7, could start at 11 o'clock at night. But we need to be very, very cautious because we do not want to see a huge spike. And I think this is what governments are trying to avoid, to see a spike in the spread. Sadly, we've seen the numbers grow a lot faster in the last couple of days than they did before, but our numbers appear to still be low. And what's more important is the number of fatalities still appears to be low. And I think this is what the government is focusing on. But with these countries that open up, I don't think immediately we should be celebrating and saying, you know, now we're going to get a lot of these, you know, French and German and tourists coming in, because airports are still on lockdown. I think the aviation sector is going to be hit very, very hard. You know, I think many airlines are not going to be able to survive this pandemic. And also governments overseas are telling their nationals, you know, if you want to have a holiday, travel at home. If you must leave the country, travel, you know, next door to your neighbor. So for us, the big opportunity is definitely in the domestic market, as well as the regional Africa market, you know, countries around us, Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia. That's where the opportunities arise. But we're glad that the government is considering reopening, but of course we appreciate that they must be very cautious about it. And we also need to be very prepared ourselves, because a lot of responsibility is given to you as a business owner when the government says, okay, fine, you've met all the criteria, you have a license to reopen. You know, we don't want to let the government down, because in so doing, you just let the whole nation down.
Sure. Yeah. And you brought up a very important point around the domestic markets. We've been struggling as a country to promote our products to our very own Kenyans, which is quite ironical. Whereas we are seeing people traveling all the way from the United States of America to come and experience our product. Gradually, we've seen a number of campaigns being driven by Magical Kenya, which you sit on the board of. And from your interactions, from the past experiences, how is domestic tourism faring so far, and what are the opportunities? Some say it's still too costly. How do we address all this and still have an excellent product?
You know, Abby, the domestic market has actually been growing in the last 4 years, and it's been very encouraging. I think when I took over as the chairman of the tourism board, the domestic travel numbers, which are measured in bed nights, were just slightly over 3 million. Today, they're well over 4 million. So there's been a very steady growth. A lot of focus, not just by the tourism board, but by stakeholders in the industry to focus on this market. So the market has grown very, very well, but there's still a lot more opportunities. I think Madaraka Express launch was a real game changer. A lot more Kenyans were not just going to Mombasa, but they were also stopping over at the intermediaries along the way. So whether it's stopping over to go to Amboseli, whether it's stopping over to go to Savo, you know, a lot more travel to these destinations was seen by the domestic market. Of course, like with any other market, there's huge opportunities. We need to, again, understand this market. We need to understand the situation of this market post-COVID, because many people will have the willingness to travel, but a lot of them will not have the means, because a lot of people would have been affected. So we need to relook at this market, see how we need to engage it, make packages that are affordable, but also focus on experiences. We need to open up other experiences like adventure. We need to open up other activities beyond the traditional activities, which, you know, I believe we must also make sure that we keep promoting. But the domestic market continues and will continue to be a very important market for us. And we need to make affordable packages, but again, we need to focus on experiences, because Kenyans want to experience. We want them to remember. We don't want people to travel and just say, okay, fine, I went here, I went there. We want them to remember. We want them to be our ambassadors to other Kenyans, to say, you must travel to this location. You must travel to, you know, go and enjoy the Rift Valley region. So definitely there's an opportunity there. But as I said, the growth in travel by the domestic market has been very encouraging in the last 4 years.
All right. And just as we head to the tail end of this discussion, Jimmy, what is your take on when you look at the investors? Of course, everyone is looking at every country in terms of how we've handled this crisis. And both you and I know images is everything. It's the first impression and the last. For the tourism sector, when we look post-COVID, how would we position our country as the hub for tourism in the region at a time where we are seeing mass testing is still not fully fledged? We're just seeing pockets of regions where the government is launching the mass testing, and all this boils down to how we will be categorized. But the traveler seated somewhere in Berlin who is hoping to come to Nairobi.
I think, Abby, that traveler sitting in Berlin hoping to come to Nairobi is probably wondering, what is our government doing right to keep the numbers where they are in comparison to their own governments. So I think the Kenya government has done a great job, in managing the numbers, in managing the spread. It's a health crisis. I think every nation in the world is seriously stretched, including the big economies that we know of, like the US. They're seriously stretched by this pandemic. So given where we are now and the numbers that we are seeing that are reported by the government, I think we're not doing a bad job. However, we really need to manage, obviously, issues around fatality, because that, to me, is the most important thing. We need to manage those numbers. One death is one death too many, but we know that there will be fatalities, but we need to manage that. So I think in terms of looking at those numbers, I think Kenya is doing very, very well, not just in Africa, but globally. But we also need to look at the positives, and we need to bring out the positives of the destination. I think Kenya has won a lot of accolades globally. Destinations like Diani, destinations like Nairobi, destinations like the Masai Mara have won a lot of accolades worldwide, and we need to capitalize on that. Those experiences are not going anywhere. But as I said, we definitely need to reinvent. We need to redefine our product. We need to repackage it. We definitely need to bring out some of the different experiences that one can have, cultural experiences, heritage, cuisine, adventure, golf. One of the things that will definitely not change is that Kenya is a 365-day-a-year destination. We don't have extreme weathers that you find in a lot of other destinations, given our location on the equator. So we are a 12-month-a-year, 365-year destination, and that's what we're going to capitalize on. The people of Kenya, we're ready to welcome back our visitors. We're ready to welcome Kenyans to our properties. And we are very sure that the experiences that people will have will be nothing short of enhanced and memorable.
All right. I just want to get your parting shot,
Yes.
Jimmy. What's the one thing that you've learned out of this COVID-19 pandemic? And also, what's the one thing you'd tell the president if you were to have a sit down with him?
Wow, okay. Well, I think the one thing that I've learned from this pandemic is that, people have really rallied together to support each other. Whether it's colleagues, whether it's friends, whether it's even people who don't know each other. We've really rallied together as a community, as a global community, not just as a Kenyan community, but as a global community, to support each other through this virus. If you go on to a lot of the social media platforms, there's a lot of positivity. There are people who've developed YouTube pages, Instagram pages that are really encouraging people, whether it's through health, whether it's through cuisine, whether it's through helping people going through, psychological issues. So I think the one thing that's really come out is that as a world, we can really come together as a family and support each other. Now, if I was to give a message to His Excellency the President, wow.
Or that one thing you'd want him to do for the sector?
Help us protect our liquidity so that we can protect jobs. One of the key priorities of the nation, of the government, is to make sure that we increase employment. So we need support in the industry to protect our liquidity so that we can protect jobs of the millions and millions who depend on a healthy tourism sector for their livelihoods.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. You did very well. Well, that has been our in-depth conversation with Jimi Kariuki, who is the Group CEO of Sarova Group of Hotels, just talking to us in terms of how the industry is coping and what he sees in the horizon, exuding a lot of confidence that Kenya is a resilient country and tourism will certainly pick up. There'll be painful moments to come, but Kenyans must brace for this. Well, we want to take a look at the markets coming up. Well, that's it on today's episode of The Trading Bell. Quite some moving sentiments there from tourism sector players. But at the end of it all, we must keep hope alive and hope that things will get back to normal eventually. Well, Remember, you can engage with us on our social media handles appearing at the bottom end of the screen, and always keep safe and maintain your social distance and sanitize. My name is Agina. On behalf of the Trading Bell crew, have yourselves a lovely weekend ahead.